Welcome back to IMC Live, everybody, the interactive webinar series hosted by the Industrial Marketing Collective. I'm Peyton Warren, Marketing Director at Gorilla 76, the industrial marketing agency, and I am one of your IMC Live hosts. About a year and a half ago now, we had the one and only Beth Bauer and the one and only Tim. Oh, and I should have gotten how to pronounce your last name. Is it
Ren
Roenicke?
Roenicke. Yep. Oh,
Roenicke.
you're good.
Roenicke. On to talk about websites. And during that conversation, we learned that Fullerton Tool, where these two lovely folks work, had a pretty sophisticated e-commerce platform. And they built it in-house with a lot of Tim and Beth collaboration. And honestly, that show for me, it was like last January, sparked a lot of follow-up conversations that I've had, LinkedIn posts that I've made, and just general curiosity. Afterward, we were like, wow, e-commerce is possible for industrial companies and for manufacturers and distribution arms of your business. And since then, we've talked with many manufacturers who are wrestling with e-commerce, whether or not they want to do it or not, what platform they should be using, or, like Shopify or BigCommerce. We've talked about other off-the-shelf solutions. Fullerton, though, went in a very different direction. So today we're going to unpack how they got there specifically with e-commerce, what they've learned along the way, and maybe just as importantly, when a custom approach does or doesn't make sense. So we'll leave you with some things to simmer on for yourself if you are thinking about doing this thing. So Beth and Tim, thank you so much for joining us. Can you just say hi to everyone and the folks tuning into the podcast afterwards?
Yeah. Hey guys, glad to be back. I'm excited to chat more about e-commerce today.
Yeah, me too. Glad to be back. And I'm Tim. I'm the developer at Fullerton.
Yeah, so tell us before we get into like the meat of the show, what's Fullerton been up to for like the last 18 months? What have you guys been doing?
Price increases.
Oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, we do carbide tooling, so it's been pretty volatile lately. But yeah, a lot of price increases, but just a lot of innovation, a lot of new tools, a lot of new machines.
That's awesome. So that sounds like a lot of updates to the website too.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh man. Let's go ahead and just jump right in. I love to set context. And I think when we did our prep call, Tim, you started to tell us a little bit about like the beginning of like this e-commerce journey. So can you take us back to whenever this started with Fullerton? Obviously, you guys have had a website for a while, but yeah, when did it become something where you were going to leverage it for e-commerce, and how did that come about?
Yeah, so I came into Fullerton right when they were transitioning to a new ERP system. And at that point, they did not have any web presence. If you went to fullertontool.com, it literally just said coming soon. And so they did the ERP implementation. And then soon after that, I got word that they had actually tried, they were in the process before I had gotten there of building out a fully custom e-commerce website at the time. And so this is probably back 2010-ish, maybe even a little bit before that when they had attempted all that. And it had failed. It had never launched. They had never done anything with it. And a lot of that just came down to data issues, which we can get into a little bit more about. But then fast forward about 5 years after I had started, then we got the initiative from the executive team that obviously they wanted a website. And one of those directives was they wanted folks to be able to order online. That was what they initially had tried to do with the earlier implementation. And they wanted to start to, that was the long-term goal. But the short-term goal was just to start to alleviate these questions that were coming in from the customer service department. So things like live inventory, stuff like that. So yeah, that was kind of the beginning. That was the initial initiative kind of behind us going custom.
Yeah. And so what were your early challenges that you faced as you were, trying to dip your toe into this and realizing how big of a challenge this was going to be?
Yeah, so early on, I think one of the biggest challenges was what we were hearing was other folks were dipping their toes into getting their ERP data online, but it was not live. So what was happening is like those customers would use the website, they'd get maybe inventory information or what have you, and then they'd call customer service and be like, I want to order this tool. And in some instances, that would be lagging behind and it wouldn't be in stock, and you just have this mis-expectation and ultimately like this distrust from the website of like, if I've had a few bad experiences and the stuff's not in sync, well, kind of what good is it? I'm just going to pick up the phone because it's easier. So that was really one of the initial challenges is how do we make this live?
And I think with that too, like our ERP system is quite slow. So the approach that we've always taken on our website as well is for it to be like an internal tool first for whether that's our customer service team or our internal quoting team or sales teams, but then also building it out so that it also makes sense for our customers who are distributors as well as our end users as well.
Yeah, and I think an important part of that is so like we initially reached out to the ERP vendor and we're like, okay, I was a single developer at the time. It's like we really don't want to reinvent the wheel if you guys have a solution to this live inventory situation. And they said they did. We implemented that, and it just like as Beth was alluding to, it just was too slow. We had missed syncs. We were running into a bunch of issues, and just at the end of the day, we didn't have enough fine-grained control over it. And so again, as we kind of talk through this, you'll just hear these little check marks where it was just like, okay, a third-party solution, we were running into issues, we wanted a little bit more control. And there's other instances of this that we started to kind of hit as we went along, and it just further kind of snowballed to give us the confidence that like, yeah, full custom for us and what we wanted was probably the way to go.
Was there a final straw that was like, okay, this is it, we're going full custom?
Um, probably when they started talking about wanting to dog food a lot of what we were building, custom quote wise.
What what
Um,
what does that mean?
I was gonna
yeah,
say, I don't know if
yeah.
I even know what he means by
Yeah, so
dog food.
there's this saying of like you want to like you if you dog food it, you're basically like eating what your own company is eating what you build. So like essentially like our customer service team, and that's another big key to this. Our customer service team uses a lot of the tools that we've built on the e-commerce website just as a customer would. So they place certain orders through the website just like a customer would. And we have custom quoting that gives you instant pricing and the availability to buy there. They use that as well. And so we were known back 12, 15 years ago as the next season company of like, if you wanted a quote, you wouldn't get it till next season. And that was a big thing for us to speed up.
Mm.
Now we do 24-hour quoting. They get pricing instantly, literally instantly through the site. And so 50% of all of our online quotes are 50% of all of our quotes rather go through the website, and a big chunk of those are done in-house. So it turned it around where our quoting team could now work on the major custom difficult stuff, and our customer service team, who didn't have all of the knowledge of quoting, could just instantly get in there. It was on rails. They could just plug in what the customer was doing, and they were able to take over some of that load. And then in some cases, the customers were teaching themselves and they were doing it. So anyway, long story short, that's what dog fooding it is everybody's using it.
Yeah, yeah. Everybody, Tim, you're the only one I've ever heard use. But now I'll use it.
Yeah.
And I'll feel really cool. Yeah, that sounds like like that reputation being the next season company. That sounds like a huge hill to climb and kind of build back from. Before we like, I know we're going to talk more and more about how you guys have continued to like integrate feedback into like your website and the e-commerce platform. But Beth, I mean, anything you want to add there about like just that perception and like how you kind of from like more of the marketing seat, like was that like what you walked into? Because you've been with Fullerton for about 10 years as well, right?
Yeah, we were like the e-commerce site didn't like the website existed, but the e-commerce side didn't exist until I had joined. So like definitely like had a big part in working with Tim on that from the marketing side of things. And I think just mostly like we've always been really focused on like what can we add that's going to be beneficial for the customer. It's just not about getting the orders. It's really creating this site so that they can come to and, check stock, get their pricing, place orders, get quotes, just so that it's like a place where essentially can save them time in their day. Because most of the time our distributors, they're dealing with hundreds of different vendors. So I think that's always been our goal of just like, how can we simplify the site so that but still provide them like with exceptional value to save them time throughout the day.
And Dale asked in the chat, what was the first function that you tackled out of all that?
Tool search was our big project that we started with. We really just want to be, so like a lot of the places, we never wanted there to be, sorry, we don't have an item for your search. So we took a lot of times in really figuring out the process of what search should look like and the functionality behind that. Tim can talk more about that, I'm sure.
Yeah. When we first looked at it, I think when me and Beth sat down, we did our due diligence. We looked across the entire industry of carbide cutting tools, and we're like, what is the search experience across like a lot of competitor sites? When you really get down and like our tools are very, very technical. So it's like, how do you build an experience that it invokes that joy? It was always about like joy for the customer, trust for the customer that they're getting, that we're making it as simple as possible. So we went through a lot of iteration because that's the foundation of everything, right? If they can't find the tool they're looking for, they can't add it to cart. So we spent a great deal of time figuring that out.
Yeah, especially,
Yeah.
I mean, because when we started working on that, we had about like 10 to 12,000 different products at the time. So, I mean, that's accounting for a lot of variable factors and properties because different tool types and all that stuff as well. So it was just a really complex feat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think one more thing to bring up with that is like we were very conscious of like user flows, and that we have a customer that's going to enter into that funnel. They're going to search. Either we have a tool that fits the dimensions or we don't. And then it was like, okay, we've got the solution for the standard folks that are using standard tools that we have. But then it was like the next step, you're always thinking of like phase two of, okay, there's a customer drop off point. So now how do we convert that custom user now? And then that went to, okay, our next feature is going to be quoting so that they can then transition to, okay, we might not have a 1/2 inch end mill in this. Click here, it ports everything you've existingly searched for into the quoting system. And now you're just figuring out, okay, maybe you wanted a shorter length of cut or whatever. And then boom, instant pricing. And then we've closed the door for that customer too. So everything built from search.
So I really want to hear more and more about like the different functionalities you built in and why this has become a tool that like the team, your internal team, the CSRs, and your sales team uses and your customers use. But before we get into that, I do want to talk a little bit more about products, and I know our good friend Lisa wants to hear more about products too. You mentioned, not to go back too far, but like there was an attempt that failed, and you guys and you mentioned a data issue when you were just kind of introducing this. So can you talk a little bit more about your product listings, what you guys found that you needed, what your customers were looking for, what your CSRs needed to like make this actually possible in the first place? Like almost like that foundational data set for those 12,000 items that you guys
Yeah.
had.
So I'll speak to the failure, and then Beth, you can kind of talk about how we built it today. But the failure then was like, in a lot of like e-commerce systems, you're basically just plugging in your product data into like a generic, text field, and then it's listing them kind of like bullet point lists in many cases. The problem with ours was specific to the technicality of tools of like users need to be able to say, I've got a 1/2 inch, and bear in mind this was 15 years ago, right? But customers needed to be able to say, I wanted a 1/2 inch, 1 inch overall tool. And the system was just so generic in the way that data was structured, being plugged into one field, that the customer search experience was very, very limited. They might be able to search on cutting length, but then all these other 15 attributes they couldn't. So now they're scrolling through everything, and it's just the vendor just didn't understand the needs of the customer, and that was very hard to communicate to somebody that didn't understand the nuances kind of manufacturing and how those people are buying. So, yeah, that was the failure. But then we changed everything.
Yeah, and by changing everything, we essentially just built our custom backend that houses all of our product data. And with that, like a lot of our distributors too, like request for our data because they utilize that and push that into their own e-commerce sites as well. So with like the information that they've like shared that they need for their e-commerce sites, that's helped us build out our data too, so that not only do we have data that we need, but then we're building out the data that they need as well, because that's not always the same thing. Data is something I would say for the past year, it's been price increases and data, just because that's what majority of our projects have been based around the most part.
So I'm going to do something maybe a little bit weird here, but I just was going to share my screen for a second because I think I want to make sure that I'm understanding fully when you say data, what you're talking about here. So here, so like basically instead of a text box, you now have all of these typical like specs that folks are looking for.
Yep.
And you've built out a way that now this pulls from every single product listing,
Yeah.
so that they can search for it in a way that that's meaningful.
Yeah.
And then
For
the
the
listing itself.
I was just gonna say for the podcast listeners, you have like N type, material, radius, vendor, number of
Thanks, Alan.
food, a lot of very specific things that you wouldn't find on other websites.
Yeah. This is not an Amazon product listing by any
No.
means.
And I think, Lisa, to get a little bit more into like the complexities that you're talking about. So what Peyton's showing on screen with like that diameter, like in a traditional e-commerce site, that might just be a text field that says product attribute 1, right? And you plug that specific value into that field. And that's fine for a lot of things. But for us, that value needed to the system needed to understand that that value was a value that could be computed on. Because now when we get to our quoting systems, that comes in, and now if somebody in our quoting system enters a 1/2 inch by 1 inch 3 flute and it matches our product data, it won't quote it. It will just literally flag it that we have a standard tool and you're good to go. So there was all of this interlinking that we wanted to happen where, for lack of a better way to put it, we couldn't just have these things as standard text fields. They needed to be in the right data types, so to speak. So to the question on complexity, every single data attribute that our tools have in our backend has a column that stuff is specifically curated into. And as Beth alluded to, that really helps us on supporting our customers with that data in the end game, because now we can map those specific parts that they need as well.
We've got a question in the chat here, and we haven't brought an audience member on yet. Christian, it seems like maybe there's a little bit more to your initial question based on your follow-up in the chat there. Do you want to come on and ask?
I have so many questions.
Okay.
I'm super intrigued.
Well, okay, Christian, tell us a little, like, tell us about yourself. What's your situation that you're in? And then that'll help.
I'm actually a business owner, learning some marketing stuff, but we went through a relaunch of our website probably around the time you were doing this. BigCommerce was pretty fresh and new. They were dying for industrial customers to put their websites on there. They were an awesome partner to help us customize our site to work in their platform. We kind of looked at Shopify, WooCommerce, some other, we looked at a bunch of different platforms, but we have nowhere near the complexity of like doing end mills. But we do have that similar kind of like layered selection of stuff that to make it presentable to a customer as they're like kind of working through what they want to order. Man, we had to customize so much stuff in BigCommerce, and it is now super frustrating to work with. Like not super frustrating from the customer side, but super frustrating from our side, like where
Gotcha.
we're kind of rebuilding SKUs internally right now. And it's like, well, guess what? There's no real table of SKUs in BigCommerce anymore. They are all in like custom fields, 10 layers deep, and you have to go into each product and just find like an endpoint SKU. Like it doesn't, basically, like now we're like, oh, shit, none of this works at all. And we were so pleased with it when we launched it. So my first question was around like security stuff. So like, do you like how is the website put together to manage security updates? I mean, we're constantly doing security updates on the site. So like if you build, like, is there a platform or front end that you worked with, or some kind of base software, or is it really like, are you guys having to handle the IT security piece of it too?
Yeah.
So that's
We have
kind of
to.
like two very different questions, but
Yeah, yeah, no, you're good. Yeah, it's 100% from the ground up custom. So basically we handle the platform that we put on handles all of our server security updates. So that is handled automatically from the operating system level, but in terms of the software that we write, yeah, all the bug fixes, security, and everything is managed in-house. Yep. So that's all on us. Yeah.
Christian, did you have any other follow-up questions on that?
no, my brain just exploded.
Okay. Well, we'll let you put that back together. Let us know if
Yeah.
anything comes to you.
But you guys have also expanded your team in a way to support this more, right? Because when you started, right, I think this was kind of, I mean, you were just trying to do it, and then as revenue and time savings and like the internal team was really leveraging this tool, you guys brought another developer on to your team. Beth, your role has morphed into supporting more of like this like component. And
Mhm.
what'd you say? It was like you're up to about 15% of your company's revenue is
Yeah, generated from the website. Yep.
generated from the
Correct.
website from like
Hmm.
this quoting feature. And I think that's like a nugget that has also been mentioned a few times that I just really want to call out is that you're talking about quoting, and like 50% of your quotes from the prep call, this is what y'all shared with me, is like 50% of your quotes are flowing through the website. And that's massive, right? Because otherwise, how would those quotes be getting in? Like over the phone or whatever. But, I just want folks to really notice I'm saying quotes, not orders. Because I think when folks hear e-commerce, they just think, okay, like a credit card transaction. So I just wanted to talk through that a little bit. Like maybe I'll just tee that back up
Hmm.
to y'all to kind of talk through your thinking on when did that be okay as like, okay, that's the goal of your e-commerce is to process a quote, not necessarily to take a credit card.
Well, I think we need to like clarify too. So they are placing orders for like standard, like our standard 5-digit like EDPs, but like our business is very much of like 50% of our business is the standard items. And the other 50% is like specials and customs and altered tooling. So, I mean, so majority of on like that 15% of sales, like that's on like the standard items that
Okay.
people are placing orders on. But then like the 50% of those specials altered are being loaded through the website. Some of them are being processed through the website, but it's still very much in infancy stages. We do have plans where like eventually, hopefully, where anything you quote on the website can be ordered on the website. But with our ERP system, there's some constrictions there, so we're trying to work through that and make that work as well. um but yeah, but like with us, like we don't sell, like with our website, only authorized distributors, I should clarify that too, can order online through us. So that's why like we're not processing credit cards. Like we are then like taking that order and issuing like invoices and stuff just based on our normal like relationships and billing processes that we have with our distributors. But we would in the future like to be able to process like credit cards and stuff. And that's something that we do have in our like discovery list when we have some free time.
We had a quick question come in on the chat from Olivia. She asks, when it comes to updating pricing or inventory, do you have a connection in place between the ERP so that it updates the data on the back end of the website automatically, or do you have to do everything manually?
Yeah, good question. That was another big thing that we wanted to solve. Initially, we were syncing everything. Um, Now from an inventory and a pricing standpoint, we pull live from the ERP system. So if you type in a part number into the website and you see once it pulls back a price, that's actually communicating back to the ERP system directly. So when they update our ERP pricing, website gets the pricing immediately. No need to do another sync. Global Shop, Christian on the ERP side.
Right. And we talked a little bit about like all of the work that you all did to prepare for this. But can we dive a little bit deeper into that? Like, for example, how did you prep leadership for all of the realities here that they might not have foreseen when they started this, or
Or how did
any-
leadership prep you? I mean, I guess
Yeah,
what
yeah,
like
Yeah, I feel like oftentimes it's like, hey, we want to do this, make it happen. And then it's like left to us for the most part. But oftentimes too, it's more like we have ideas and start running with it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was just like it was trial and error out of the gate with both sides, right? Like they would give us a directive of we want to do instant quoting. And I did
Mhm.
not come from manufacturing, so I'm like, what does that even mean? Like what are we going to get ourselves into doing this? So it was a big learning experience on my end to even understand some of what they were actually asking. You know what a quote system is, but what does that mean for a technical tooling company?
yes.
And so learning that and kind of being along for the ride, um, yeah, it was definitely kind of a 50-50. We were learning as we go. And I think everything started to snowball. It was slow to start, but as we both built trust, the executive team and our team, of when they can come to us, they have this, and now we're giving realistic expectations on time, cost, and all that. It got a lot easier over time.
yeah,
And I think we've always incorporated our customers' feedback into pretty much everything we
Yeah.
do. Like we would identify, like some key customers to like just run ideas by, or like if we had like a beta version for them to try out, like we would always like start slow and get their feedback and then make any necessary changes before we really like launch. When we did like the e-commerce side, like we really took a really serious phase and just beta testing with a few key customers to really get their input and feedback, and it definitely helped make changes that definitely the distributors utilized.
And
Uh,
it's like the same thing of like boosting credibility. Like that's why we interview customers for our
Hmm.
marketing efforts, right? So you guys are interviewing your customers and you're getting feedback from them and getting the beta testing underway so that when you then go back to your leadership team and you're saying these are the changes we need to make, they're founded in like real feedback and
Hmm.
surveys and everything. And that just
Yeah, and I mean we're very lucky too that like we have a customer base that like lets us know when they're not happy about something. I mean, was it earlier this year or late last year we had made some changes to just like our navigation bar. Like we made search more relevant, and but by doing so we removed it from one of the drop downs, and have mercy, like we got so many calls and emails about you removed search, and I'm like, we made it more visible, guys. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's
but
just
it's not
they
where
know
I
what.
remember it
Well, it's
Yeah,
not
was.
it's
where I
not where I remember.
remember.
we're
Yep,
real
Yeah, like
creatures
it's
of
literally
habit.
on the home screen,
we are.
like and right there in the navigation bar. So
Yep.
I mean, it's a good like it's a good thing though, right? Like you want that feedback. So I mean, we did end up adding it back to some of our drop downs that they were complaining about, but yeah, it's just good to have that constant feedback.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
let's
just
talk a
simple
little bit.
B2B.
Oh, sorry, Alan.
That's just classic B2B for you, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I do want to dive into this topic a little bit more, Alan, too, because like I think uh, you know, Tim, you mentioned that when you started at the company, they even put, so it's like you were hired as a developer and then they send you on the road, which I feel like
Oh
is a
yeah.
really weird
Yeah.
thing to do with a developer, but
Yeah.
also very smart. I mean, you spent time with the customers and, learned a lot. So like, why was that important? How did that feed into the process? And yeah, let's just talk a little bit more about this customer feedback angle and how you guys do that.
Yeah, the customer feedback angle. It was really interesting because Patrick, our owner at the time, like he was so gung ho. I mean, he's definitely a visionary in the sense that like when he has that vision, he is just very passionate about it. And he just understood that the technology end of this could really change things. And so he championed, like he was so proud of this, that he just wanted to show it to the world. That was always the feeling that I got. And he always told me like, what better way than to have the folks that build it, show it. Because we built it and we knew it. So they sent us along the road. And I am an introvert at heart. It was a lot of Pepto-Bismol and Tums because I was just gutted over, doing all that. But it really was integral because, as I said, I didn't start out in manufacturing. I had no understanding of our customer base, the needs, who we were serving, and everything. And I took a lot of ownership, and Beth does too, ownership over the site, but I didn't really take ownership over what the customers were doing. Like being face to face with them changes the whole game, because now they're telling you this is really a pinch point for me. This is really great. And we just really championed that, and we baked it into the site. Our feedback loops are literally baked into where at the end of that, they're able to say, hey, I had a good, bad experience if they want to put, more feedback in there. But just every chance we get, we're trying to get that customer story of like, how did it go this time? And if there is pinch points, I love it because it's like, okay, where there's a place where we can and improve upon. Um, but yeah, so I was on the road with them for probably a full year at that initial launch, off and on. I shouldn't say a full year, maybe like once every month we'd go to a different customer, but it just helped out a lot being and seeing it firsthand.
What are some of the things that you learned that influenced maybe a feature or a function that you added?
The one that always comes to mind was the fast quote systems. We got a lot of buy-in where we had a rep that specifically touched base back with us and said, this system is changing the entire way that we sell tools. Again, I had mentioned that we were a seasonal company. You wouldn't get it until next season. But the entire industry, like struggle, it's complex tooling and quoting times uh, can be quite long in some cases. And he's like, I now have the ability on tools within these boxes to go and I sit down in front of the end user. And he's like, I'm able to plug in exactly what they need right on the tablet, and I push the get pricing button, and they've got the pricing today, not tomorrow, not a week from now, not 2 weeks. And he's like, I'm getting feedback from them that they're just ready to close the deal now because they understand that everybody else is going to have a lead time that they just don't even care. They need the tool today. This is closing that deal immediately. And so we threw fuel on the fire and we doubled down on fast quoting. We were just doing it on our end mills. We do reamers, saws, drills, all those types. So they expanded fast quote to pretty much the entire product offering after that.
And
E-
what did you learn as you were traveling was going to be the biggest barrier to adoption and getting people to use this the way you wanted to?
That's where I wanted
Yeah.
to go. Alan
Yeah.
was like, okay, great. You guys have some big goals of like growth for this. So that means that you need more of your
I
customers to,
mean, like
right?
literally when we were building it, we had many, many people, even within the company, just saying, oh, I think this is a waste of time. No one's going to use it. Remember
Mm.
that, Tim? Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, I think this is a huge waste of time. So, I mean, it's definitely reassuring to be like, like they are utilizing it quite often. When we're literally getting like over 1,000 orders a month via the e-commerce site. But, oh man, I lost my
Well, so who
thought there.
who does use it? You've mentioned your internal team, like the
Hmm.
CSRs. But then you guys sell through distributors, so you have distributor accounts, um, end users, I'm imagining, or some of that.
Yeah, end users are utilizing our website. They're not like they don't have they can't place orders or anything, but they for sure can utilize like tool search, fast quotes, like our calculators, that kind of stuff. But like from an e-commerce standpoint, it's mostly our like mid-tier distributors who are utilizing it. Because we've even had like our top distributors, right? Like these are huge national accounts, right? They're saying like, no, we're not going to like use e-commerce because that's just an extra step for us. Like we want to just be able to like save a PDF, like PDF PO, and then like ship it over to you guys and for customer service to process it. But definitely like through some of the features Tim has added, like we see some of those top distributors utilizing it more. Like he implemented like a PO uploader where on he uses AI to like scan it and adds all those items directly into the cart. So they're
Scan the
starting to utilize
PDF
it
that
as
they
well.
wanted to send you.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
So they're utilizing it. And we're also offer a 1% rebate to our distributors who use it as well, just because, you know, like it saves us time and money because we don't have to have another physical like customer service person there. Like the system just automatically is taking those orders in. So it's a little reward to get distributors utilizing the site as well.
Has that rebate been working pretty well?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Oh
it
yeah.
was
Yeah.
it was
Yeah. Like
big.
if there's like a possible issue, like where they weren't able to, for some unbeknownst reason, like place an order, like they are emailing customer service and making sure that rebate credit is added to their account for the month. So
Yeah, I mean, why not? They'd rather
hmm
order it with 1% back, depending on how, I mean, that can be a big, I know 1% might seem small, but I mean,
yeah,
think
when
about
you're
conversion
placing
rates,
like
folks, and
thousands of
1% conversion rate's
dollars,
pretty
right?
dang good.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's important because like you can dangle the carrot with stuff like that in the 1%, but it's like if you don't have the meat on the back end that it is actually easier than their existing process, then you're gonna retain them maybe for an order or two, but sometimes they'll just be like the 1%'s not enough. And so that's where like
Yeah.
to your question too on like how do we convert people to using it? I think a lot of it came down to just getting honest on Beth and I's part of being like, man, we're really proud that we built this, but is it easier than the alternative? I mean, you're going to have those users that are just early adopters. They love new stuff. They're going to use what you're putting out on the website, you know, before anybody else. And then you've got those, kind of middle of the road where it's just like, I've been calling in my whole life. And if me and Beth want that person that's calling in to use the website more often, then just at a bare minimum, I have to make the resistance quicker than picking up the phone, calling a CSR, and just giving it to them. So you have to be honest. Are these processes adding more
hmm
value, and are they easier for the customer? And we look at
And
everything
two,
like that.
yeah, and also too, like there's a lot of like features like post placing of the order, right? Like they can track their orders, track their shipments, all, from the website as well. So that's saving them time and like not having to call and check in of like, hey, what's the status of this order? Has it shipped? I need the tracking number, that kind of thing as well.
Yeah. And the PO reader was a good example of that, of customer feedback of saying, like, it's just easier for me to send the PO. It's easier for me to email the PO to the customer service team. And I'm like, okay, I can't completely eliminate that objection, but at least you can just upload it online now and it'll do the same thing. So,
Some people just want to, be able to catch up with their friends.
yeah, exactly. And,
hmm
and that's a good point of like, yeah, you're not going to have somebody on the other end of the website. So for some people, you're just not going to convert everybody. But
But you do, we have live chat, Tim.
we do have
We
live
got
chat.
our customer
But
service and engineering team on live
yeah,
chat. So customers can
sometimes you want to
also
hear their
ask.
voice.
I know
Yeah.
sometimes you want to hear their voice.
Yeah.
But so they can get like technical and like just order support via the website too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys have built out so much here. We uh we've got a couple questions that have come in, and I think we should get to those more than even what I had in here. But one of the questions that came in from Kayla, you mentioned that it's a login process, so not everyone can buy on your website. So you have distributors. Um, her question is, how do you make sure it's not end users purchasing the feature, purchasing for now? And my like addition to that would be, how do your end users work with the distributors using your system?
You want me to
Yeah,
take that one, Beth? Oh, sorry.
it's up to you. You can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so from the distributor side, we basically pull directly out of our ERP Global Shop, and it tells us all of the customers essentially that we've sold to. And then Beth maintains in that system the domain names for those specific companies. That way, twofold, when the user registers with that domain name, we just auto associate them to to the company rather, and they're good to order. So if the domains don't fall within that, that's the only time we auto approve anyone to order. If the domain is not there and they are a customer, then it shoots us a manual verification email. Beth adds that domain to the proper customer, and then anybody else that signs up under that company
Mhm.
is now good to go.
Or marks
Um,
them as an end user, depending on
Remarks,
if,
yeah.
yeah.
And then end users under that are they're just
Mhm.
end users. They don't have a valid domain for any of the customers, so it just blocks them basically.
And
Blocks them to order, I should say.
we had one other quick question from Dale in the chat here. He said 1,000 orders per month is awesome. How much traffic are you getting to the site each month?
Oh man.
I think it's
I
20.
saw Beth's screen like color change. She's like,
I was like,
feeling.
hold on. I was like, I have it right.
So the flash.
Oh man, I don't have it handy.
So I think it's around 2,500 unique users a
A week. Yeah, I
week.
have the week. Yeah, we have about 2,500 a week unique
Yep.
visitors.
And then on
So
the
that's
quoting,
users that
I'm
log
sorry.
into your platform or that just come to your website.
Just come to our website.
Okay.
Yep. And then on the
Lots of repeat.
quoting side of things, it's around 500 total quotes
A
ish
week.
a
Yes,
week,
about
and it
500 a
varies.
week. Yeah.
Yep.
It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. You've obviously built some great relationships and folks come back to you over and over again and are using the tool. Um, I know we're at 10:45 in the morning here, and that brings us to the end of our show. There's so much more we could go into. We haven't really talked about, how you guys even like, obviously you're taking feedback ongoing. We didn't even dive into all the different like little nuances of how you collect that feedback, or how you prioritize the feedback that you get into functions and new features. Um, but I think like a big question, especially since we've got Christian here, a business owner on the call, you know, I want to just kind of end with this is like, what's one thing you want the marketers here or business leaders to understand that maybe they often misunderstand about e-commerce?
I think for me, it's just more about like e-commerce. I mean, obviously it's about the sale, right? But there's like what additional value can you bring to your customer that is just like outside of the sale? So sure, like the sales numbers are the easy numbers to be able to track, but like being able to see if they're downloading, like how to operate the tool, or like it's the functions, right? Like the technical side of things. It's just like all that added value can definitely make a difference and have that customer come back time and time again and utilize your website as a resource. Because I mean, even we've seen that like where they're coming to us for some of our competitors' tools and utilizing some of our tools just to help them find answers for even competitors too. So that's nice.
Yeah, and I think Christian, you had a really good anecdote that kind of plays into my thoughts on that of, execute. Execute as quickly and as thoroughly as you can, because you get information that is going to direct you
Hmm.
into whether custom is correct, whether third party is correct. In Christian's case, you loaded all that data. It was good initially, and now you are starting to feel some of those growing pains and sinking pains, and not everybody's going to feel that. And so that's where third party is not the answer, right? For some people, it's going to be. So execute into that, and as you start to feel this, make some real choices on, okay, do I need to adjust? That's the thing, because the faster you execute, we've talked a lot about our successes and a few failures, but there has been many, many failures and things that we have learned along the way. And it was just the faster you fail, the quicker you fix. So
When are you launching when are you launching your global shop e-commerce consulting business?
I'll talk to Patrick on that one. We'll
I am
see.
Yeah.
half kidding.
Yeah, yeah, another stream of income for Fullerton Tool.
Are you on Global
Yeah.
Shop too, Christian? Is that
We're not, but
no? Okay,
it's an ERP I've looked at a fair amount. It's just
gotcha.
I see so much stuff like that where it's like we have a molding company we work with where the guys internally built a tool for tracking production. And it's like, oh, guess what we're gonna do? We're gonna start another business selling the tool that we built
Yeah,
because like you said, you make the mistakes for everyone else.
yeah. I think the big challenge there, and I think a lot of those folks that started third-party tools started that way of like, man, we've got it working in-house, and we can build something for everybody. But part of the benefit to us is it
Of
is
the
so
custom piece.
custom and
Yep.
niche. Yeah, it is so niche to Fullerton that we can do things. So yeah, there's a balance there. There's a balance there for sure.
Yeah. Well, this has been super fun to have you guys back on the show, Tim and
Yeah.
Beth. You guys didn't necessarily start with the idea that you wanted custom. Um, you just built one based on your business process. And that's kind of what we've been talking
Yeah.
about here. So, that's been really evident in like your product complexity and like your customer requirements and everything there. That just kind of exposed the need, and y'all answered the call. And we really appreciate you answering the call and sharing so much with the group here. If folks want to connect with you further, whether that be to ask you to consult or just maybe talk some more shop, what's the best way to do that?
You can connect with me on LinkedIn. That'd probably be best for me.
Yeah, LinkedIn's probably best for me too.
Cool. LinkedIn's a fun place. All right. Well, our next IMC Live is going to be on June 18th. We're going to have Maya and Chelsea, two strategists from Gorilla 76, on to share how they have share kind of a little bit more about Gorilla's take on generative AI engine optimization, so GEO, and how we're handling audits for that, and how you can take that and build an effective one for yourself. So think about joining us June 18th. And for the folks in the room, we love seeing you, and we'll see you next time. And for everyone listening, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
Luke.